because, as John said, it has been great, to be honest with you guys. I receive a lot of messages, so I really appreciate them. And then, as he said, the format is going to be very, very similar, but this time we will talk about the offensive fundamentals in futsal. So let's start. As same thing, we have the phases of the game. If we have the ball, we are attacking, and the three main objectives: score a goal, keep the ball, and progress towards the goal with the ball. Then we have the defense. We talked about that a couple of weeks back. The offensive transitions with the four phases inside there: the opening, the counter attack, the fast attack, and the positional attack. The defensive transition and the phases. So 2-3 weeks ago, we talked about the left side of this screen. Today, I'm going to try to cover the right side, everything about attacking. And again, it's going to be about the fundamentals that I really think that they are very, very important. So we are going to explain the gain of one, which basically is the fundamentals of one player, the gain of two, the gain of three, and then we call it systems rather than the gain of four, basically to separate from the 4-0 formation so we don't get confused. But the same thing that I said with the defensive fundamentals, I really think that if we teach offensive fundamentals rather than systems that they are very close, we will have like better players that they really understand the game. And it's the same that I said. I got a lot of material here that I learned from other coaches. I learned from other people, from the Spanish Association of Coaches, from the Spanish Federation, from Adri Martino and Jose Antonio Valle, and their company Bamar, from a course that I did with El Pozo Murcia, and I think I mentioned last time as well. These guys, Bamar Formation, Adrian and Valle, they are doing a fantastic English version of a course that I really, really recommend for everybody. So having said that, I think it's time to crack on. So we have in the gain of one, guys, we have the first thing we should start working with kids is coordination, and everybody knows what coordination means. Okay, it's just basically to do movements well timed, smooth, and efficient. There are different types of coordination, like eye-hand coordination, eye-foot coordination, intra limb coordination. But when we are coaching kids, this is super important. It's absolutely the same that laterality, and this is the capacity for the players to do things with both sides of their body. So we want players that they can dribble, they can shoot, they can do 1v1s on the right and on the left. That is why when we are teaching kids, it's super, super important that we work on that. And finally, ball manipulation. And this is something that I have to explain. I don't mean with ball manipulation technique, because I consider technique when it's related to the game. Here, basically, I'm talking about that kids, they should dominate the ball rather than the ball dominate them. And I'm going to put you like an example of all these things. So this is Tomás de Dios, a fantastic coach that he works a lot with coordination, laterality, and engaging kids. There is a full video on YouTube. I just took a piece, and basically the guys, they are doing some coordination movement with balloons, and the balloons, they have different colors. When they touch one balloon with red or blue, they have to do different things. At the same time, there are some balls moving that they have to pass. Sego, I visited him last summer in Chicago, and all the sessions for kids is about ball manipulation against the wall, every kid with one ball. Or we can use a lot agility ladder for these things. That is when I was working for England. But if we want players to be able to do things with the ball, I think to have coordination, laterality, and ball manipulation is the first step for them to be successful. Okay, so then after this, we have to talk about dribbling or running with the ball. And in English, it's a bit different. In Spanish, we always say conducción, but in English, it's a bit different. Dribbling, we consider when the control is really close to the feet and there are small steps. And running when you are taking big touches and you take longer strides. But for me, the first thing is you have to have head up. So you perceive the space, the teammates and the opponents. Then different surfaces with the sole, you have more control, but it's slower. With the inside or the outside, there is a bit less control, but you can go quicker. And then the laterality. This is super important. We should be trying to encourage our players that to use the leg that is or the foot that is farther, the farthest one from the defender, because that gives you more protection and more passing lines. This is super important, more passing lines. And then there is a debate here when we are teaching kids if we should limit the number of touches or not. I really think that when we are coaching in the development stages, we should not limit the number of touches because we are losing more than we are winning. But, you know, this is something that we can think. So now we have some examples here about dribbling with the ball, like in a counter attack, dribbling and then with a finishing there. I think everybody knows this player. We have another kind of dribbling here. We have a fantastic player using the sole control. That player even played in first division in Spain and is a very important player for one of his personal characteristics. I don't know if you see, but check on him when you see this video again. Another example of dribbling with the ball. Okay. The second one is control. So, you know, everybody knows what control means. Control the ball. And we can use different surfaces. The sole, the inside, the outside. We can control the ball when it is coming on the air. There are different types, like you stop completely, the oriented controls, or in motion control, when you control the ball when you are already moving. And again, the laterality is super important. We should use both feet. But when you are on the wing, unless there is a space on the wing, and usually you control with the outside foot because you can take that space. If you control the ball with the inside, basically you are opening with the inside foot, you are opening an internal passing line. And in futsal with controls, there are three key aspects. One is attack the ball. The second one is control with a feint, and you will see now what that means. And the second one is you can attack the ball, but then you let the ball go to the other foot. So here we can see like attacking the ball. That player, fantastic player. Attacking the ball here again. And I put examples of attacking the ball, basically going towards the ball and having that oriented touch, and every time finishes in a shooting action. But that doesn't have to be all the time. You can just control the ball to make a pass or to dribble the ball. Okay, so you can. But the idea is that concept that you don't wait for the ball to come. You are attacking the ball. Here, there is a control with a feint. I don't know if you saw that. There we go again on the top of the corner. So there, the player controls the ball with the inside foot. You will see. Stop the ball with the inside foot. He makes one step, so the ball is in the middle, and then he takes either way. In this time towards the other side. That is what we say control with a feint. Watch the top corner. There is the same example. You see that player here is going to control the ball with the inside foot, and then step. Here we have Wallace doing the same. That is what is called control with a feint. And then we have here the last example of this player that is attacking the ball. So it seems that the next one is going to shoot with the left foot, but he let the ball go to shoot them with the right. So those three examples, they are very, very important to master them in futsal. Then we have the pass, and it's the same. We should try to encourage players to pass the ball with both feet, right weight, no bouncing. If we use the inside of the foot, and important to use the correct foot, which usually is the farthest away from the defender, and to pass the ball also to the correct foot too, which is the farthest one from the defender. So that is important, that we should try to encourage, to teach the players to pass the ball to the right foot. And so here we are going to see another example of passing, and we see Morocco here, and you can see how they pass the ball. It doesn't matter which foot they use, they control with one, they pass with the other. The players, they are very, very good technically. They can use both feet, both legs. And I think it's a good example about how different kind of passes they can be made. And you will see what happened with the video. It's also a great possession, great mobility, but then we will talk about that later, okay? Just focus right now only on the passing. Then, they score a fantastic goal. So here we can see an example of England. We have Agon left-footed, we have Cookie and Wallace right-footed, and you will see that they are controlling the ball with not their weak foot. They are facing. So this is a very good example how these three players, they really control the ball with the farthest away foot to basically have better options. Okay. Then finishing and shooting, super important in futsal, is the last phase of the attack. Everybody talks about the toe, like toe poke. We can use the lacy, we can use even the inside. And I included here the back post, like finishing on the back post, because in futsal, it's very, very important. We should run always to the back post. But it's important the body orientation of the player that goes into the back post, like always seeing the ball and the goal, and also finishing high. In the video, you will see a couple of examples about why it's important to finish high. We can see here some examples about the toe poke at the beginning. Now we are with the laces, like players that they are shooting with the laces. And then we will see, I think the next one is a couple of players that they use the inside, even from a 10 meters penalty, to basically place the ball and find that gap that the goalkeeper gives you. So here, that player number 6 is going to finish with the inside, just to place the ball. And now we have the back post, okay? So here there is an example about a back post finish. You saw that example before, but there is a mistake, and the mistake is here. There's another one, same thing, that the finishing on the back post was low. In the first one, they scored, but on the second one, the goalkeeper got there. And it's the same here. So here, it's perfect. My goalkeeper didn't, it's impossible because they shoot high. Or here with the Spanish national team, they shoot high. So it's super important that we teach our players that when we go to the back post, proper body orientation, and usually we shoot high to avoid the goalkeeper's hand or the goalkeeper's split save. Then offensive feints or fakes. This is super important. Futsal is a game of liars. So basically, we should be always tricking the players. And we can do feints with the ball, like dribbling the 1v1. We can do feints during the 1v1, feints to pass, feints to shoot, feints to control. Or we can do feints also without the ball. Usually it's because we try to invade the defensive space and cross that shoulder line to then come back and get that extra meter. It's super important. There is a good timing when we do the offensive feint without the ball to trick the defender, but don't trick our teammates. So there is something very important here, that we have to teach our players how to do the feint. And usually, if you want to do a feint to open a passing line, you should do the feint right before your teammate receive the ball from the third player. Because if not, if you do the feint when your player already has the ball, there is a big possibility that you trick also your teammate. So we can see now some examples here of offensive feints without the ball. Okay, this again England, and we will see in the middle Wallace, like now, one small feint there, very small. They are completely different. Or here we have Jay Dennis at the very bottom, which is a bit more like here, David, a bit more aggressive feint that at the end he didn't receive the ball, but that is what we talk. Or here we have a shooting feint by Wallace. You will see now. He received the ball, he feinted that he was going to shoot with the right foot, and then he crossed over the ball to shoot with the left. There. So this is a shooting feint. So super important to do different. There's another one here, very similar, from Marinovic, a fantastic player when he was playing for El Pozo. Super important that we teach this to our players. And then we have engaged the defender. And this is also related what I said about running with the ball. So we have to teach our players to invade the defender's space. So the offense has the initiative of the game. And if it's very difficult to engage the defender if we limit our players to, for example, a two-touch game. So that is why when we are teaching kids, we should consider these kind of things. And sometimes to invade the defender's space is very different from different players. It depends on you, on the defender. So that is one, reading the game, knowing the defender, knowing your personal characteristics is super important. But players, they should be like able to be controlling the ball with a defender extremely close to them. That is what we really aim. Okay. And then in the game of one, we have also the 1v1s, okay? And here I included also the one against the goalkeeper. So in the last years, in the last 5-10 years, I think in futsal we see less and less 1v1s. It has been lost lately. As I said, we have to threat the defender, so we have to threat him. If not, we have to engage. If not, it's going to be very easy for him to defend. Usually in the 1v1s, we should try to move and displace the defender laterally with a good timing. So we should control the time and the spatial. We should have a spatial control and time control of the situation. And of course, you should have to be able to go out to both sides, so like left and right, use feint, chain of speed, and read the game. You should know where you have to do a 1v1, how, when not, in which position is too dangerous. And then, okay, for the 1v1, there are some very good tricks or movements that you can use, but something that is very difficult is when you are moving the defender, and I learned that from my friend Wallace. When you are in the 1v1 and you are moving the defender laterally, if you read the defender And in the moment that the defender is making the step and is on the air, is doing one shuffle step and is on the air, so there is no contact on the floor. That is the time when you have to do the movement to basically beat him, because the player cannot change direction because he has no contact with the ground, with the floor. So we will see here some example that you are moving the defender laterally to wait for the right moment. Again, we see the defender moving laterally. That was my player handy. Sorry. Wow. What a 1v1. And that player went to the right, as you see, but then finishes with the left. Penny. So that is why laterality again is super, super important. So here we will see number 10 from Egypt. He's very good in the 1v1, and he's also moving and waiting for the defender to dive in to basically go. And that defender did what we talked the other day about defensive laterality. And then we have, I think this is the last one, we have the offensive body orientation. And, it's super important that we always face forward. So basically, we watch the opposition's goalkeeper, unless you are a fixed pivot, but we will explain this. So basically, the control should be forward to attack the defender. Before you receive the ball, you should feint, and then if you receive the ball on the side, on the wings, try to face forward. If we are playing a 4-0 and we are on the x-axis, more on the middle, so the gain in that part of the court is more horizontal, we should be looking for the depth. Pivots, they should head to watch what is behind them, even if they are playing with the back towards the goal. And also, when the goalkeeper has the ball, everybody should be moving. That is something that I learned from Sego, that we should be moving, so that way and our body orientation should be always facing forward. So we are going to watch here some videos where, for example, here that is England Ukraine. The goalkeeper has the ball, nobody's moving. Okay, we receive the ball, and I think it's Duke. Duke is already facing towards our own goal. Here we have a kicking. The same. He turned his back, play back. And again, so the body orientation, we could say it's not the best one if we want to really play forward. We are not really watching and we are not really seeing what is on the court. Here we have a kicking with Dougie Wallace, Dave Jennings, and Ian Parks. And we play the kicking. Dave Jennings, I don't know if you know, number 7 is a left-footed player, so there is one possibility to pass the ball back to him, roll the ball inside, and switch the ball to the other side. So we generate a 1v1 over there, or even a 2v1. Or you can pass the ball down the line to Ian, because Ian was here. But again, we play back, and at the end, we switch the ball to the other side, where without really watching if the defender is coming. Like here, this square horizontal pass facing back that is super, super dangerous. Or here, the next example, it is a kicking. We have Cookie, fantastic player, but Agon here, we have a kicking there, and he is not really watching that Crofty open up, so the opposition is not really pressing, so there is not really need for Crofty to open up, or maybe if he opens up, Agon can go hard. But the thing is, Cookie didn't really, his body orientation was not really there facing forward. Okay, and then here we have Morocco, that is a team that is really, really facing forward all the time. and even if there is a bad pass like now, and you have to face back, you are trying to go forward as soon as possible, and they are not scared to be dribbling the ball close to the goal, as you can see here. Let's watch it again. They are comfortable with the ball. They have no problems to have the ball there. They don't panic, and by the way, they get out and they score on us an amazing goal. But the next example is also Morocco playing against Saudi Arabia, and it's the same. They have no problem to face forward almost all the time, which is this is what we should really be teaching our players. So this is the end of game one. This is the end of what we should do with when we have one player, the offensive fundamentals for one player. I don't know if you have any questions, but if you don't have any questions, I can go to the game of two. If you have any question about this, we can stop here and talk about them. Okay.
I think there's one question down at the bottom.
Okay.
If you just want to jump on it before we go.
Yes. Yes. Perfect. No problem.
Yeah, it says I see coaches all the time saying the feint must be past the defender's shoulder. Do you think that this is true?
I already said that usually that is a good advice, and I say that because as soon as you cross the shoulder line, you makes that defender to step back. But as we saw on some examples, sometimes just with some small movement with the body, you already provoke a reaction on the defender, and you already get those extra inches or those extra space that you need. So it is true about the shoulder line, but we have to read the game. I don't really like to say always we have to do this, because if you, for example, this is one example, if when you are going to feint, the defender backs up, you don't really need to feint. If the defender is already giving you a space, so you just take that space. Okay, but in principle, yes, it's a very good advice.
Perfect. I think Jamie's asked, would you coach points 1 to 11 or make a decision based on the needs of the player?
Sorry, say again, please.
Jamie has put, would you coach points 1 to 11 or make a decision based on the needs of the player?
Well, I think you have to coach all of them, but of course, depending, you have to individualize the coaching. So some players, for whatever reason, they are better in the 1v1s because they play a lot on the street, and maybe you don't really need to teach them about that, but maybe they need to do more I don't know, laterality, because they only go towards the right. But yes, technically you should be coaching all of them, and especially the 1, 2, and 3 in the early stages, super important.
Cool. I think that's it. I think you're ready to jump onto the
Perfect. Thank you. So we go to the game of two, and probably everybody knows that in the game of two we have the dualities, which basically is the combinations, connections, or the combination that we have between two players. And there are 5 important characteristics, and depending where we are on the court, the risk that we want to take, the type of defense that we have in front, the decision making, and the individual and tactical knowledge, we can use one or the other. So we are going to go all over them. Everybody knows the parallel pass could be against individual defense. usually is way better, and when they press you high. And in finishing situations, so basically in the last third of the court, is not really useful because basically we have no angle and basically we are sending the ball into the corners. And to defend, we should use the defensive covers, the floating and exchanges concept that I explained some weeks ago. And then in a parallel, we have two players. We have the playmaker, which is basically the guy who does the parallel and should be using the whole width. That player should decide reading the situation. So that player received the ball and should decide if the parallel is on or if the wall pass is on, depending on the defender. Should move the ball close to the line. So that means that the width is a bit better. Tip the pass. You know this about knee high to avoid that interception. And this is very, very important. The ball is called parallel pass, and usually the ball travels parallel to the line, but the ball should be a bit inward, should be towards the inside a bit, because that way, just a bit, because that way you open up a bit the angle of shooting. And then the player should follow the pass to give options. And then we have the runner, or in Spanish, the rápido, which is basically the guy who received the ball. And the first pass should be a good pass. That player should wait until the other player receives the ball. Don't start the run ahead of the ball height. Change the speed of change the direction with or without feint, depending on the situation, and could be in front or behind the defender, okay? But it's important that the player is always looking at the ball. So there are different parallel, simple parallel, classic parallel, but I'm not going to go into that. We can see here some examples about a small parallel here. Or here there is a longer parallel. Or now we are going to see a long parallel, which is a 4-0 here. When I was coaching Sheffield, in a 4-0 formation, there is a long parallel, there is a mistake, and you will see that the ball goes towards the outside, not towards the inside, goes toward the outside. That is why the player makes that strange rotation and movement over himself. But the player who made the parallel, the playmaker, runs and follow the pass. So actually, that is the player who scored. But it was, you see that mistake that the ball was a bit outside. We have in Italy here, Wallace, a couple of seasons ago. As you see, the ball, he's almost in line, but he's not ahead of the ball. If you try to make a parallel ahead of the ball, usually the defender is going to intercept because the defensive cover will be closer. So then we have the parallel with the pivot or parallels. There are different kind of parallels, but the concept they are the same for every single one. The next one is the diagonal, okay, and it's the same. There is a chain of speed and chain of direction. To be always looking for the ball. Could be a long diagonal, a short diagonal. Could be on the air. Could be down. The run could be in front or behind the defender. It doesn't matter, but usually it should be used against the individual defenses, against defenses that they press high and with intensity. Not really in finishing situation or close to the goal. And to defend is the same. We should basically use a lot the exchanges and the floating concepts. So here we will see a diagonal ball over on different. It is the same one from a different camera. We had two cameras set on the court. And good finish, very good finish. And then we have the wall pass. In the wall pass, so one choose we have vertical wall passes and horizontal wall passes. And usually the defenders they should switch markings. Okay. And again, we have two players: the playmaker, and which is basically the guy who is making the wall pass, should be in a passing line. Sometimes when the player is coming into the gap between the defensive lines, okay, the player is not in a perfect clear passing line. It's behind the defender that is marking my teammate. Then the height, and I learned that from Micho Martic. Okay, the player should be at the same height as the defender, or if we want, between the ball and the defender, but in that space. With kids, I really think that we should always encourage that the wall pass should be 2 touches. I receive the ball, I control, and I pass. That way, it gives more time to the other player to run, and also the pass has more quality. Important to do an oriented control when I receive that ball, so I open the passing line. And usually, you should control and pass with the protected leg, which is basically the farther away from the defender. I can accept that if maybe I have to control the first touch with my strong foot because I don't have a very good control with my weak foot, but the pass should be always with the protected one, which is the farther away, because that is, and the pass is to the space. And then the runner, which is basically the player who runs, should be over the line. So we use the whole width of the court. Should be close to the defender, so we should be threatening the defender, so engaging him. When he plays the first ball, the first pass should be to the protected leg, and then there is a feint with a chain of speed. And we will see here some examples. This is a horizontal there, and as you see, that player here is between the ball and the defender. That is the height that we should have for a perfect. That is the height that we should have for a perfect wall pass, because that means the defensive cover here is going to run more, and then the angle is better. Okay. However, here it was 1 touch, but I really prefer 2 touches. We have another horizontal wall pass here. Sorry about the quality, but it's there. It's an all Spanish First Division video. Then we can do a vertical wall pass, okay? And this is what is called vertical wall pass. Real Betis doing there, or Maritime in Italy. They used to do it a lot with Mickey as coach. Another vertical pass. Here we have Maritime, vertical wall pass. Block. And here we will talk about that also later, but we have direct, indirect, blind, false. Should be a very good timing between players, and the player who blocks cannot move. And there is nothing really on the rules about this, but I really say the same. I think we should use the same concept that they have in basketball. Try to do exactly the same. And defensively, if somebody blocking us, usually we should switch. So we will see now some blocks here, like even from kickoff, like a block just to shoot from Egypt was doing it all the time. Or we can see here a block. Again, the same in a local game in Zaragoza. And this is super important. There is block and continuation. And let's see if we can see this. So it's important that after blocking, And then I don't want to go out of this presentation, but then I will show you something that it's important that we teach our players that they block, and after blocking, they continue the movement. So it's like in basketball, the pick and roll. And that is something that we don't really see that a lot. That usually you block and then you stay there. Overlaps, and the overlaps, they could be a lateral overlap or a central overlap. And usually they happen in the creation, which is basically in the middle zone, or in the finishing zone. There should be a very good coordination between players, because usually we use the pisada or like the roll back. But at the same time, we have to be very, very careful, because if the defenders they are smart, they could do a 2v1 on the ball. Okay, and defensively we should switch, or we should have a plan like maybe we follow. So here you will see a double overlap, lateral overlap on here on the right, on your right hand side. You will and watch this video, because I think we will see a couple of times, because it's a good example for something. So now we will see that the player takes the ball in, there is one overlap, the player on the pivot, another overlap. So there are two overlaps, one on the winger, one with the pivot. Here we have one overlap with the pivot, so the pivot receives the ball, and there is an overlap of, here we have a Maritime in Italy, from when Miko was when Miki was coaching, doing lateral and central overlaps. So here we will see a lateral, but here a lateral overlap with a back post finish, and here we have a central overlap. Okay, so now you see one, then we finish with that one. But in the next example we will see better. So the player dribbles towards the middle, so we have lateral and central overlaps. That usually not a lot of coaches they use the central overlaps. I learned that from Miki, fantastic coach. And then we have the screens or curtains. Okay, and this is super important, because there is a problem with terminology even in Spanish. So imagine when we translate this concept into English. So the screen is, so basically this is very, very simple to the block, but we can, or to, it's a mix between a block and an overlap. So the screen is when the cut is between the player with the ball, and you will see now there, I don't know if you saw, so there is going to go between the player with the ball and the defender. So there is a gap, or there again. I'm going to put that one again if you want. So there, at that moment, here, there is a gap between the defender and the ball, so we can do a direct screen. And use and Pato in Rivera Navarra does a lot of screens and curtains. And curtain is when it's behind. So there is another one here. There's another direct screen, okay? Or here. You will see there. But here we have Brazil against Portugal, and there is an indirect screen. So basically, the player now is cutting between the player who marks the other one before he receives the ball. There. So this is an indirect screen, but it's in between. This is the concept. And then we have a curtain here, which basically is when we do it from behind. So here, let's see. The player has the ball here, is marking, is very, very close. So his teammate cuts behind So that is what is called in Spanish curtain or pantalla, cortina. Okay, so another different concept that is sometimes is difficult. It's difficult to understand and to separate from overlaps, screens, blocks, curtains. So the next one is the backdoor. And if you know a bit of basketball, it's basically very similar. It's basically when you do a feint or you unmark yourself with a movement at the back of the defender. It's important to make eye contact with the player who has the ball. And basically, what you are trying to do is you create a deep passing line or a vertical passing line. To defend this should be a very good coordination between goalkeepers and defenders. You will see here that player here, Rob, doing let's watch it again. Going to unmark. There we go. From behind of the defender. Here, same player, and the player who passes the ball is the same one as well. So it's different. It's not in a finishing area, but it was unmarking himself from behind. Or here we have Barcelona and Rivera Navarra. So Rivera Navarra is going to score a goal, doing a backdoor at the end of this possession. Let's see if we can see now. Can I stop? So now follow that player here on the right, that player here at the top there. So that player here is going to go behind and mark completely and now receive the ball and score at the back post. Or here we have a bit more like running backdoor because you do like a rupture. You are breaking the defensive line. Then clears out or clear ups in Spanish aclarado. Basically, this is something that sometimes could be introduced on the gain of 3 because maybe you need more players, but with 2 you can already do it. So basically, if my teammate has the ball and we want to do like here a 1v1, and for example here we have I think it's Wallace, Duke, Max, I think it's in France. Everybody knows that in that situation Wallace is going to do a 1v1. So Doogie goes to the back post. So to clear that space that right now is clear, okay? Basically, so it's dragging the defensive cover out for a 1v1. But Doogie is coming in, so then the defender is there. There is no way to do there is no way to do now a 1v1. It's okay. Maybe this is our style of play, to play the ball into the middle, into a pivot position, and then do a wall pass. But nothing happens. Or here, that we have, I think it's Webby doing a block after the pass, which is perfect. We have here Raoni Medina, the captain, and after the block, this space was clear, so Wallace is going to take the space, but Raoni, rather than going to the back post, is coming into the direction of the player that is running, so basically bringing his defender onto that side, and at the end, the defender is the one who steps in. Here we have a good example of Robinho playing in Portugal, that look, the teammates, they go away because he has a very good 1v1. So or here we have another 1v1 on the side where the 3 players from Inter Movistar, they go away. Or here, very good example of a clear up in a 4-0 formation, where we have the 4-0 formation, that player has the ball against Inter Movistar, Palma, and nobody's cutting there. So what happens is there is no defensive cover, and there is a 1v1. There is a 1v1 situation because there is no defensive cover. Here again, we have a 1v1 when all the players, they go away. They are basically going away. And the last one, I think, is one special case. Robinho again, the same guy that I put before. I don't know if you saw, but the goalkeeper put the ball in place. The guy is that good at the 1v1 that this is the press breaker, or this is how, if they need, this it's 5-3, you know, the score. If they need, how they attack. The goalkeeper just gave the ball to him, and everybody goes away, and they are clearing the space basically for him. There are not many players that they can do this. And then this is super important that I learned that from Mickey. So we have all these dualities, and we have the zone 1, zone 2, and zone 3. So the initiation, the creation, and the finishing. With a bit of tweaking, with a bit of modification, we should establish where we want to use the dualities. And we should teach our players when and where one duality is good or not. So in the zone 1, in the initiation, there is some of them that for different circumstances, they are not really recommended. And the same at the finishing one. So at the finishing one, a parallel is going to put the ball into the corners. So it's not really what we really want, okay? And then the block, I don't know if you thought about this before, but the block is the only one that it doesn't depend on you. So the block, you can do a perfect block. So if you do a perfect parallel, probably is going to be successful. You can do a perfect block, a perfect one, and it doesn't depend on you, the success, because there is an external agent, an external factor, which is the referee. You do a perfect block, but the referee blows the whistle. So that is why on zone 1, near our goal, of course we are attacking towards the right, okay? So on zone 1, it's not really recommended to do blocks, because that means that if you do a block and the referee blows the whistle, that means that you are giving a free kick close to your goal. Or maybe you can do blocks, but after the third foul, we don't do blocks anymore. So that is something that the coach should establish also into the teams. Which kind of dualities we do in each space of the court. Or, for example, in the zone 1, as you see, there is no overlaps. Because if you pass the ball and you have to go for an overlap, basically you need time. And if they are pressing you, your teammate doesn't really have time on that area of the court to just be messing around with the ball. That is why, of course, we can discuss about this, but it's important that in our team we establish which dualities we do in each zone of the court. So this is the end of game 2. This is the end of the dualities. I don't know if we have any questions. I think I saw a couple of questions popping up, but honestly, I have no idea how to chat. Let's see if we have here the questions. I can read them and then.
Daniel, if you want, I'll ask John JK to ask his question in person. So it's a
Yes,
bit more
no problem.
active.
Hi, Dan. It's just a couple
Hello,
of quick ones, really. I see you did vertical and horizontal wall passes, so got a couple of questions with it. I see a lot of players in England, they don't use the vertical or horizontal pass positively to try and get in behind, but they use it negatively to occupy more space for like the deepest player, more like the fix, or to draw the defence out centrally so they can go out and round. Would you adopt that? Would you coach that for youth players, or would you try and make it as much about being positive?
The thing is, everything depends now on your philosophy as a coach. for me, I want to attack. So that means I want to go forward. And that is why I really want to go always forward. And after a vertical pass, well, a vertical wall pass, I really encourage my players to run forward. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And probably you will see now with the gain of 3 what I mean with the runs forward and how we implement everything into the gain of 3 and then gain of 4. Okay, but I get your point, but probably that is because sometimes we are very conservative and we don't really want to take risks. And I prefer to. I am attacking, but I am thinking more about
So
my
that's what I mean.
defensive
So in that
balance.
example, if a player in training is playing a wall pass and they're playing it, negatively to keep possession rather than try and break lines with it and go positively, is that where you'd step in, or would you just let it happen and work it out for themselves?
Well, depend, because also there are moments, So if we are winning, I don't know, 5-0, and there are 10 seconds of 15 seconds on the clock, do we really need to attack more, or do we just keep the ball? The thing is, there are different moments, and this is when you have to read the game. And of course, imagine that is the last chance. You need a goal. There are 10 seconds on the clock. There is a good opportunity, and your player makes a negative decision just to keep the ball rather than attack. Definitely, yes, I would step in and I say, hey, this is the moment to take risks, because we need the goal and there's only the few seconds on the clock. So I think we have to take everything into consideration.
Okay, and just the part 2 of that, I think someone else has written it as well. I just wanted to put a bit more flesh on it. So with the wall passes, vertical in particular, and the 2-touch concept, I think it's really important because obviously it gives that runner time to get there. What you were saying, but does it not take away time for the refractory period of the defender, so that you have more chance to recover?
Yes, I saw this. I think is you are asking me, and I think another friend, Claudia, is asking me the same thing.
Yeah.
So the thing is, when we are teaching, okay, I really want to master the movement perfectly. So I really think that controlling and passing, which means 2 touches, gives more time to the player to make the run, and also we improve accuracy of the pass. Okay. Also, the player who is marking us, if we control the ball, the player is going to come closer, because the player doesn't know if we are going to make the wall pass or we are going to switch the ball to the other side. I don't know if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
The thing is, and I agree with
they may
you.
be anticipating that pass already if you do it one time.
Exactly. But I agree with you that if the third defender is very smart and the third defender is making the defensive cover on the axis, maybe could be a good defensive cover. I get that point. But as a general rule, I would always teach 2 touches. But then, well, I put some examples in first division in Spain that is 1 touch pass. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But that is then when players they read the game and they make their own decision on the court.
Okay.
As coaches, I think we have to give them just the resources, and then they decide.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Perfect. So should I carry on?
Yeah, ready to go, Daniel?
Perfect. So 1 sec. Okay. So we go to the game of 3, and I don't know if I put here 1 sec. I put here 4 players, but we are only talking about 3. So it's important that as soon as we have 3 players, when we have the 3 players and we are playing with 3, we establish who is the defensive cover, or how is going to be the defensive balance. So, for example, if forget about player number 5, okay? If number 4 makes the run and we play that ball, we have to establish who is going to be the if we lose the ball, who is going to be the balance, number 2 or number 3. This is the first thing. And by the way, could be either, but it's important that in our team we establish that. and then we will understand a bit more why. Then the next one that we do in the game of 3 is the winger cuts. As soon as we have 3 players, we should starting to introduce the winger cuts. Okay, and for example, again, forget about player number 5, but if we introduce with 3, with 2, 3, and 4, the winger cuts in a very good coordinating movement, when we have the 4 players, so in number 4 cuts now, when we have the whole team, then maybe we open the passing line to the pivot. That is why it's important that with 3 we started to introduce these movements, or we might play the parallel to the other side. Okay, then with 3 players, we should talk now about width. They should coordinate the movements to maximize the use of the whole width of the court. So in this case, number 3 and number 4, they should be playing next to the lines. The wingers, they should be on the line. And this is the moment when we should introduce these concepts. And then we have the depth. Imagine that, forget about number 3, okay? This time we play with 2, 4, and 5. But even with 3 players, somebody can go higher. So then we introduce the concept of depth, because at the end, futsal is a game of width and depth. Okay, so those 4 concepts are the ones that on the game of 3 we should start introducing. Of course, the players' mobility, which basically is we have to start teaching players how to move, to create spaces and occupy spaces in a rationally way. And it should be a balance between horizontal and vertical passes. That is the way to use the width and the depth. So usually one rule that I say is we should try, when we are teaching this kind of movement, we should try to occupy the space that my teammate left. That is a rule that for to teach at the beginning should be very important, okay? And then we have the ball circulation, which basically everybody knows about possession. So it's the same, is we should coordinate the movements to keep possession of the ball without a finishing intention. So we don't want to finish. We just want to keep the ball, because that will help us to the next step. And then it's important finally that we introduce that every time there is a deep pass, there are runners. And every time that we pass to the pivot, there should be like 2 runners to give options. So for example, now if we are playing with player 2, 4, and 5, forget about 3. One rule that I got in my team is when the ball gets here into player, let's do this. When the ball goes here, so player 5, my pivot, has the ball, I got a rule, and it doesn't matter how the ball got there. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who passes the ball, but the rule is the player that is on the same side, in this case number 4, cuts diagonal. This is runner number 1. And the player, and then at the beginning it was that the player here comes around, and remember this, because then you saw that video about that double overlap, and it's very, those players, that's my team, they did it because we are training that way. So that way we have the pivot with 3 options: himself, runner 1, and then the runner 2. But so number 3, when we have the gain of 4, should be the defensive balance, okay, in that situation. But then I change this, okay, and it's the same. When the player receives the ball here, so the pivot receives the ball, there is a deep pass. Runner number 1 is the same one, the player who is on the same side. But now, when the ball goes there, most likely that defender is going to be looking there, that defender is going to be looking there, that defender will be looking at the ball. So all the defenders, their body orientation is at the ball. So to surprise then, if number 2 is doing the second runner, it's easy to defend that. because number 5 is going to be watching him because they are almost on the same line. So what I did is, this is my next variation, okay? That the opposite winger is the guy who attacks to do the second runner because this is coming from behind. So it's coming from the back, so they cannot see. And number 2 is the balance. That is what I said at the beginning of the game of 3, that we should establish in our game model who is the defensive balance in each situation. Could be 2, could be 3, could be, and there is nothing wrong. Okay? So I don't know if you understood this, but still we are with 3 players only. I know that I put 4 here, but we can do the same thing with 3. So forget about 1 player, and every time we play the ball into the pivot, there is 2 cuts. 1 to the back post, and then to do an overlap. 2 runners, always 2 runners. That is how every time we play into the pivot, 2 runners. So there are 2 finishing options and the pivot, gain of 3. And you have the example here. And you saw already this example, but this is my team playing in an international tournament in Hawaii. Okay, so the players, they decide this is our way of play, and that player now is important. That player is going to touch the ball inside. You see? So generates a space from behind to do the overlap, play into the pivot, and another overlap. And then, okay, we didn't finish. But you will see, it is established. And the 4th player didn't even participate. So if we watch it again, the 4th player didn't even participate in the movement. But now, oops, sorry, you can see almost walking, because almost walking there is going to take into the, go to the axis, go into the middle to be like a defensive balance. So the 4th player, so that is why with 3 players, we can already start working on this. And then we have skip a player. I think this is there. Yes, 1 sec. Yes. Skip a player. With a skip a player, I mean with 3 players, we can skip 1, which means we play to the farther one. So we don't play to the number 2, we play to the opposite side. And this is super, super important, because that means that the defenders, they have to switch to the other side. So we shift the defenders. So as soon as we have 3 players, we should start working on that. Because, for example, this is very important with the game of 4. And if, for example, it's even more important to skip a player when we are playing later on with power play, for example. Okay? Because that means that we are shifting the defender. Very important, fundamental. And then I think this is the last one, is the double cut. As soon as we have 3 players, we can do a double cut, which means 1 player does a parallel, 1 player goes for the diagonal. So for example, in that example, only these 3 players, forget about the pivot, if number 3 passes the ball and then goes diagonally, number 2 passes to number 4. Okay, so is that pass and then that pass. But that guy is making this run and this guy is making that run. The timing is different because there is a delay in the timing, because there is a pass in the middle. So now that player number 4, sorry, with the ball has a parallel pass here, or taking the ball inside for a diagonal ball. This is what I call with double cut. As soon as we have 3 players, we can do double cuts, which basically means 1 parallel, 1 diagonal. And then, of course, we can miss them. Like which cut is the first one, or which cut is the second one, or which direction. This is up to the coach. and just teaching you, or teaching, or trying to share with you the different fundamentals that we should teach with 3. Okay. So here we have an example. It's a press breaker, but you will see. So it's a press breaker. Okay, we have the white team 1, 2, 3, and 4. They are playing in a 4-0 position. Focus on the players in the middle that they are going to do a double cut. There we go. So they did a double cut, one diagonal and one. So the goalkeeper decided to play long. Not the best decision ever. But if the goalkeeper, imagine that the goalkeeper decides to play the ball here, because one guy ran for the parallel, we have a parallel pass here, and this guy went for the diagonal. So that means that we have this diagonal pass there. Okay, let's watch it again. Let's watch it again. So they cut, it's a double cut, and if the goalkeeper plays short, you have then the 2 options. That is why, as soon as we have 3 players, we should start introducing the double cut. And then we have the dualities. So we have 3 players. So 2 players, they can do a duality. And then the 3rd player is the one who appears. Pato is a guy that in Rivera is doing a lot. So here you will see there is a screen there with a pisada, with a back heel. And then the 3rd player comes into the middle to get the ball. Let's watch again. So there is a duality, a combination between these 2 players right now, with a screen, back roll, and the 3rd player goes into the defensive lines to receive the ball, and then decides to do a 1v1, and it's successful. By the way, there is a wall pass, and the ball goes out because the 4th player didn't get there. But there is a duality, and the 3rd player comes. So you only need 3 players, but you are starting introducing the 3rd one, or there. See? Again. There, let's watch here. There. The 3rd player is the one who comes to receive the wall pass there after that pisada, that back roll. Here we have a back roll with a screen, and then the 3rd player again, there we go, now runs to receive the ball and finish. Again, those videos are from Pato, and very, very good. Okay, so game of 3 is done. We have all these 8 concepts that we should started to introduce. I don't know if we have any more questions, or I go to the game of 4 now, which is basically it's almost at the end. No questions?
I can't see any questions, Daniel. I'd crack on.
Perfect. Thank you. So then we have 1 player, 2 players, and 3 players. And I said we go to the game with 4 players, that just to separate from the 4-0. So we don't get confused. I call it, or it's called system. So now we have the system, and we have to create our offensive model. And basically there are 3 types of games. One is the free play. So basically you play free. There is nothing. There is no structure, and all the even top teams, they have moments in the game that they play free, because that is when players, they show their talents. So for example, when you saw that amazing moment by Ricardinho doing the rainbow in the Euros, that was not pre-planned, that is free. So every team, they play free in some moments, but we have some teams, they play free always, because there is no structure. So there is one model which is free play. Another one that is called directed play, which basically is when there is a couple of rules, there is a couple of concepts that everything is established, and the players, they have the freedom to read the situation, to read the game, and react according to the rules and the game model that the coach has been teaching them. That is how most of the teams and during the most part of the game they play. And then we have like the pre-made or the prefabricated play, which basically is when you have rotations and you repeat always the same rotation, and it's very elaborate. And of course, all the teams, they have this. So for example, if there is 5 seconds on the clock, you have to score a goal, and you have a pre-made set movement or rotation with the flying goalkeeper, and we do this rotation to finish. Everybody also has this, but the thing is, we should teach our players all of them, and then of course when to use one and when to use the other one. So I don't mind to share with you my offensive models, okay, and we can discuss about this. So we have 3-1, and I know that you can read that later, but because there are so many arrows, but you will see probably better here, and I will put a couple of times, and then after this I finish, and we can have some questions. So we have the 3-1. I'm going to let it go, and then I will explain to you. And probably now, that video that you saw a couple of times with the double overlap, you will understand why. Basically, that was not something that happens because of that happens. Yeah, that is something that we did because we have been practicing that. So the pivot is in the middle, okay, and that player number 2 decides to pass the ball to number 3. So that is one trigger for my pivot. My pivot should go to the opposite side. Okay, that is rule number 1 that we have in my team. Usually, if number 2 is reading the game properly, and we play with a pivot that is right-footed, should pass the ball there. So the pivot always goes to this side because he's right-footed. If the pivot is left-footed, should go to the other side. Okay, that is one. Then after passing, so because the pivot goes there, we try to do a clear up in that side. We try to drag the defender out, so we have a 1v1 situation. If nothing happens, the player goes looking for a wall pass or the parallel. Number 2 is looking for a wall pass or parallel. If nothing happens, number 3 will dribble the ball into the middle. But we have the same, and number 2 will start to come back. We pass the ball to the other side. The player goes in, and there is an overlap for a back roll, as we saw on the video, to then play into the pivot. And remember, rule number 1: if we play into the pivot, that number 4 will go back post, and number 3 will continue. But that is the rule that we have established in our game. The variation that I introduced is that the number 3 will stay. If we play into the pivot, number 3 will stay, and it's number 2 the guy who is coming, the one that is playing behind you defenders, behind the defenders. Okay. If nothing happens, we dribble back into the middle, and in a perfect world, this number 2 should be a left-footed, and this is the only moment that I don't want my players playing touching the line. If that happens, you saw that the pivot is already coming into the middle. So basically, when the ball goes there, it's opening this passing line diagonal for a left-footed player, one touch pass into the pivot. There, okay. If nothing happens, we restart. The pivot is already in the middle, and then we restart playing. And by the way, the players, they decide. Okay, the players, they decide when to do. And if you review later the presentation, you will see that my players in that goal that we missed, in that action that with the double overlaps, they didn't really do the whole rotation. So they are not robots. They are basically reading. Those are the guidelines that they have. Then we have the 4-0, and in the 4-0, I gave them there is a bit more freedom. They have 3 rotations. If the pass is from middle to middle, these guys they rotate. Okay, so if the pass is from player in the middle to player in the middle, they rotate number 4 and number 5. So now there is a diagonal ball here. Okay, if the pass is from the middle to the short winger, 4 to 5 in the middle here, everybody rotates. There is like a figure of 8. Okay, and then if the pass is to the long winger, so number 4 passes the ball to number 3, everybody rotates, but we cross. And the number 4 passes and goes, and number 2 then crosses. So we have diagonals, we have wall passes, we have everything, okay? So you will see now. But those are the 3 kind of rotations. And middle to middle, middle to short wing, middle to long wing. And the players, they decide. They could be 3 consecutive times playing middle to middle, middle to middle, middle to middle. They decide which pass they do. Reading the game, they decide. I only establish this. If you pass middle to middle, you go there. And then they decide. Okay. And then we have another one, the last one. Sorry. 4-0 rotation that we call pendulum, because basically there is always there is one coach doing it a lot in Spain, Pato, in Rivera. Also, I think Mickey did it as well. There is one player that never rotates. Okay, it's like a pendulum. He never rotates. So, and we use this one. So here in that situation, you will see that player never rotates, and you will see the video. And the idea is, it's not because we want to have a security pass. Okay, the reason because one player doesn't rotate is not because we want to have a security or a supporting pass. No, the reason is because the other team is pressing very, very high and very, very man marking. So we want to drag one defender out. So the player who doesn't rotate is dragging one defender out. So that way we have a 3 versus 3, and rather we prefer to play a 3 versus 3 than a 4 versus 4. So you will see now. Oops, sorry guys. Let's start again. Now, sorry about that. I skipped the slide. So we have the 4-0, okay? It's pendulum because the one player doesn't show number 2 passes and cuts, but do you see now? So number 2 passes the ball into the middle, which is 3, and cuts. Well, number 3 passes to the other winger, but number 2 was cutting. Let's put it again. So we have a pass, cuts. So depending, we have maybe we have a wall pass here, maybe, or we have a parallel pass there, okay? But then nothing happened. So number 3, as soon as the ball goes, and number 5 is stretching. It's stretching higher. But then number 3 is the pendulum. So go to the opposite side. And we'll receive the ball. Dribble, dribble, dribble a bit. We'll reorganize and receive the ball. So depending what the defender they are doing, maybe we can play straight into the 5. But if that doesn't happen, now number 4 that already passed the ball goes for a diagonal or looking here for a wall pass with number 5. If nothing happens, number 3, after passing the ball to number 5, here, number 3, after passing the ball to number 5, will open up to the opposite side. And number 5 will dribble the ball and then pass to number 2 and do the same. Or pass to number 3 and then number 3 to number 2. So number 3 will never goes into the rotation. I will show you again, and then we go straight into the questions. So that is how basically I built my game model, from 1 player to 2 players to 3 players, and then with 3 players, I decided to go with a 3-1, this formation or this rotation or whatever you want to call it, and then with the 4-0 with these 2 ways of playing. And thank you again. Thank you very much. And here, you have my contact details. Anything you want to hear, let's go for some questions. And, I have no problem to share this presentation also with you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot, Daniel. Really, really interesting. So we'll open the floor to questions. If anybody's got any, you want to pop in the box at the bottom. I'm sure that everybody's got quite a few things that they want to follow up. If you don't have any questions now, but let's say want to talk more in depth with Daniel, he's just put his link, his contact details up there. So please do feel free to contact him as well.
Do you see the screen now or not?
No, it's turned off now.
I want to show you something, but let's see how I do this. Okay. Content. Do you see now?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, so what I said about the opposite, the opposite one is, let's go here. When we can attack, so if we see now here the player here, the Barcelona player is the guy who is going to go. So now the ball is there, so all the 4 defenders, they are facing the ball. So usually what happens is that in a normal game, this player here, with the one that is now as a backman, will go there to do the overlap or whatever, and then this one should be the defensive cover. But the variation that I try to explain is this. Look at him. He's running all the way around, so nobody sees him because they are watching the ball, and then the back heel is for him. This is one example that I wanted to show. And then the last one, do you see the screen again?
Not yet.
Now?
No.
1 sec. Now?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, and then what I mentioned about block and continue, super important. We have an example here about England. So there is Cookie is coming to block, which is perfect. Good block. But now, if in that moment Cookie opens up and rolls, like pick and roll, so continue here, okay, where my mouse is, maybe we have the possibility for Wallace to play the ball into this gap to him. But even if he doesn't play the ball, if Cookie is here, okay, where this little black mark is, because Agon on the opposite side, when receive the ball there, if Cookie is here, because Agon is left-footed, Agon can play the ball straight into Cookie. And either way, if the ball goes to Cookie from Wallace or from Agon, we have a 2v1 situation here with Raoni Medina. I don't know if you understand what I mean. This is why it's super important that after blocking, we continue rather than staging, and it's super important. Okay? So those are the 2 videos that I wanted to share with you. And of course, everything depends on the coach, on the instruction, on your style of play. But super important that those 2 things, that block and continue, to give more options.
Perfect, Daniel. I'd like to start with the question for you, if possible, because I've been watching a lot recently around cutting and which players should cut, and of course it depends a lot on the philosophy. And I've heard things from different coaches around the indirect curtain movements and the curtain movements. So either the fixed cutting, or of course the wingers or the higher position players cutting centrally. Which do you prefer, and which do you find works better with your system of play?
Well, as you saw, I got different. As you saw, I got different cuts, and depending on the situation.
Yeah.
And the thing is, everything depends on. I gave my players this. If you pass here, so in the 4-0, if the pass is from middle to middle, this is the movement. But then they decide where to pass. So maybe, and that means that if they decide where to pass, they know already the movement that is associated with that pass. Okay.
Okay.
But I like to give them the freedom to decide, reading the situation that the defenders are putting us on, because at the end, those are the players. They are the ones that they are on the court. So I don't really have, okay, we always have to do this cut from the middle there, because if we always have the same cuts, it's very easy for the defenders to defend, because at the end, they will, if they do a proper scouting process, they will know, okay, we do this kind of rotation, and at the end, the game becomes very predictable.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely understand.
One cut that for me I always do is if my pivot drops to one side, okay, and the pivot receives the ball, the winger who is on the same side as the pivot always cuts to the back post. This is one of my rules, and this cut always has to be like that.
Okay. So effectively, you have. I know there's a big debate around very player ownership driven coaching or very structure driven coaching, and how do you find that suits you, or where do you think I would say at the top level the game is currently directed? Do you think it's more structured, like you said, you have certain set of guidelines and rules that the players need to adhere to, and then the players have ownership within that framework?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I think that I think right now at the high level, most of the coaches, they put a framework on the team, offensively, defensively, with different defensive systems, with different offensive systems. There is flexibility and there is freedom for the players to read the situation, and also to show their talent and creativity. That is basically what, at the end of the day, in the very, very top level, what makes the difference between winning or losing is the talent of the players.
Yeah.
Because physically everybody's super good, tactically everybody's super good, technically everybody's super good, but then the small details, this talent that everybody has is what makes really the difference at the really, really top level.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I got here. I think there is a question from Luis Melville. Yes, Luis, no problem, my friend. Feel free to contact me, and I can explain more, or I can give you more details or more videos about the 4-0 pendulum system. No problem.
Perfect. So I really appreciate it, Daniel. I appreciate you coming back, and say we had great feedback from the first one. I'm sure we'll have great feedback as well from this one. But yeah, hopefully have you on again at some point in the future. But really, really appreciate it, and hope to hear from you soon.
Hey, thank you to you guys for doing this, and of course thank you to everybody that listen and is listening right now, because at the end, without you and without the coaches there, I have nothing to deliver. So for me, it's a pleasure. I always like to share, because I really believe that sharing is the way that we could improve, and we could develop this sport. So thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot, Daniel. Hopefully see you back in the UK soon.
Let's see. I would like to. That's not a problem for me.
Take care.
I had a very good years over there. So thank you.
Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye.
Bye bye.